When Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them came out in 2016, it felt like the start of something big. We weren't just going back to the wizarding world, we were seeing it through new eyes. No Harry, no Hogwarts, just Newt Scamander, a shy magizoologist with a case full of creatures and a heart that beats for the misunderstood. It worked. People cared. They wanted more. Warner Brothers promised 5 films. But here we are, almost a decade later, and 3 movies in, waiting for the Fantastic Beast 4. The last time we saw Newt, he had just helped Albus Dumbledore expose Gellert Grindelwald in The Secrets of Dumbledore. It ended with just enough resolution to feel complete, but enough loose ends to demand another chapter. But there's been nothing. No trailer, no poster, not even a whisper of a script in progress. Instead, there's silence. The most recent update came from Eddie Redmayne himself. When asked about Newt Scamander's future in late 2024, his answer was brief and bleak. I think they probably have seen the last of Newt. That was a very frank answer, but yeah. Even when he mentioned the new Universal Studios park in Florida, it was only to say that maybe, just maybe, fans could catch a glimpse of Newt there. Not on the big screen, not in a movie, just in a theme park. Redmayne isn't just an actor in the franchise, he was its heart. His detachment speaks volumes. Before Secrets of Dumbledore was released, the Fantastic Beasts series was meant to be 5 films. That was the plan. But between 2018 and 2022, everything changed. The second film, The Crimes of Grindelwald, was a critical disaster. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a brutal 36%. The story was messy, the characters felt underdeveloped, the magic was there, but the wonder was missing. Then came the controversies. J.K. Rowling was under fire for her social media comments. Johnny Depp, who played Grindelwald, was caught in a legal battle that made global headlines. Warner Brothers recast him with Mads Mikkelsen just before the third film began production. None of this helped. By the time The Secrets of Dumbledore arrived in 2022, the series had lost its momentum. Its Rotten Tomatoes score hovered at 46%. Better than the second film, but not enough to reignite passion. Box office numbers were low, expectations were lower. Then came the game changer. HBO officially announced a Harry Potter reboot series, a full television adaptation of the original 7 books. Each season is dedicated to one book. New cast, new tone, new energy. The reboot is their priority now. They want Harry, Hermione, and Ron. They want Hogwarts. They want nostalgia. It's the safe bet. It's what sells. David Yates, who directed every Wizarding World movie since Order of the Phoenix, confirmed that Fantastic Beasts was on hold, not canceled, and it gave us hope. That says it all. If Fantastic Beasts 4 does exist in some unwritten future, it already has the groundwork. The Secrets of Dumbledore left the door open. Credence, once known as Aurelius Dumbledore, is taken by Aberforth, who's revealed to be his father. Grindelwald, now exposed to the world, retreats into hiding. And most importantly, the blood pact that stopped Dumbledore from fighting him has been broken. The stage was set for a real confrontation, not just political chess, but a magical war. Grindelwald's charm was broken, his mask had fallen, the wizarding world saw him for what he was. Dumbledore was free to act. That's the story fans were waiting for. Not just the slow build-up to a duel, but the actual battle. A personal war between former lovers turned enemies, between belief and power, between right and wrong. It's not hard to imagine who would return if it ever happened. Jude Law would likely stay as Dumbledore. His performance was subtle but strong, and his chemistry with Mads Mikkelsen gave the third film its emotional depth. Mikkelsen, now firmly in place as Grindelwald, brought a quieter menace than Depp. He felt like a real threat. Ezra Miller's return as Credence is more complicated. Legal issues and off-screen controversies have clouded Miller's public image, but there's no sign Rowling or WB have cut ties. If the character survives his illness, he could still play a major role. Dan Fogler's Jacob Kowalski was always the human heart of the story. He'd be the audience's anchor again. Queenie's arc, more divisive than expected, left her relationship with Jacob in need of repair. Tina's near absence in the third film made her future uncertain. And then there's Newt. Redmayne hasn't been contacted. He hasn't heard a thing. But if the call ever came, he says he'd pick up. He never closed the door. When studios plan franchises, they don't just look at scripts. They look at spreadsheets. The Fantastic Beasts film became less profitable with each release. The first movie scored a healthy 74% on Rotten Tomatoes. It felt fresh, new. By the third, the shine had worn off. The fans had changed. The climate had changed. Even the appetite for prequels had shifted. People didn't want detours, they wanted the core story back. It's not that the story was bad, it's that the audience moved on. What Fantastic Beasts did differently from Harry Potter is also what held it back. It took risks, it shifted the tone, it focused on adults, politics, and gray morality. But the original charm of the Wizarding World was built on childhood discovery. That contrast became a liability. With HBO's Harry Potter reboot, WB is doubling down on nostalgia. They want lightning in a bottle again. And that means going back to where it all started. Back to platform 9 3/4, back to the boy who lived. But sometimes silence is louder than words. Eddie Redmayne's recent comments say more than a studio statement ever could. This isn't about just one film being paused, it's about an entire direction of storytelling being replaced. The focus has shifted, the magic has moved. You know, there's something strange about finales. The best ones rarely feel perfect, but the ones that almost make peace with their chaos, they stay with you. And Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, as uneven and flawed as it was, might have given us just that kind of ending. No, it didn't bring the epic showdown we were promised. No, it didn't tie every loose thread. But it did something surprising. It closed more doors than it left open. And that, in a franchise that struggled with its own identity, feels almost miraculous. Jude Law's Albus Dumbledore was always going to be the character this series revolved around, whether or not the title reflected it. In Secrets of Dumbledore, we finally saw the weight he carried, the guilt, the regret, and the love. His relationship with Grindelwald, arguably the most complex in the wizarding world, was treated with care. No longer hidden behind metaphors or vague dialogue, it was acknowledged for what it was: intimate, romantic, tragic. Their brief duel, set not in fire and fury but in emotional devastation, revealed everything we needed to know. Two men bound by a blood pact, unable to fight each other until that bond broke. And when it did, so did something in Dumbledore. You could see it in his eyes. He still loved Grindelwald, but he also knew it had to end. And that's the problem. The endgame was always the legendary 1945 duel between Dumbledore and Grindelwald, the one history books in the wizarding world whisper about, the one we never got to see. If you want more updates on the wizarding world, hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the notification bell, because the moment anything drops, you'll hear it here first. Drop your thoughts in the comments section down below. Do you still want Fantastic Beasts 4, or is it time to let it go? Thank you so much for watching, and as always, mischief managed.